What's up, y'all? It's Zach with Living Corporate. Now, look, man, y'all know what it is. We coming to y'all. We come to y'all with real, authentic conversations every single week. So we're having these conversations talking about that real, okay? We're having conversations that center underrepresented, marginalized, underestimated, oppressed voices, experiences, and lived identities in the workplace. And today is no different, man. We have a great guest. Her name is Kanika Tolver. Kanika Tolver is no ordinary social-preneur. She's a highly decorated information technology federal government professional, rebel entrepreneur, and certified professional coach, and a serial innovator who's fueled by an extraordinary commitment to social change and helping others create their own epic lives. Not to mention, she's the CEO and founder of Career Rehab in Washington, D.C. Career Rehab focuses on assisting career transitions and transformations for students, professionals, and retirees. Her company provides career coaching programs, events, webinars, and digital resources to help people reach their goals. She's the acclaimed author of Career Rehab, Rebuild Your Professional Brand and Rethink the Way You Work. In that book, in the conversation today, we're going to be talking about, amongst a wide array of things, what's holding you back from taking the next step in your career. She's been featured on CNN, CNBC, CBS Radio, Yahoo, Glassdoor, Black Enterprise Entrepreneur, The Washington Post. She's been all over the place. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, welcome, Kanika. What's going on now?
What's going on?
All right. So look, I read the bio, I read the but let's talk about like the why behind the career coaching and things that you do, and really how you transition from tech in the public sector and like this social entrepreneur work that you're doing now. Like, how did that come together?
I mean, it came together because I was just really at a place where I felt alone at work, and I felt like, I was growing professionally and I was making a lot of money, but I really felt like I wasn't being my true authentic self. And I really wanted to help people. Like, I wanted to help people to get to the places that I was able to reach in my career, and not having a lot of support at work, just kind of, my passion was doing career coaching and helping people with resumes and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I kind of moved into the career development space.
So then let's talk about what are some of the key differences as you transition from working in the public sector, doing tech work, to now going into personal career coaching?
So, I mean, I still work in the technology industry for the federal government. So I still have my day job as a federal government employee. But what it kind of looks like as far as being an entrepreneur and having a full-time job, it's pretty much me kind of been just building my career coaching clientele over the last 3 to 4 years. So I started off as a resume writer. I was helping people get a lot of good federal government jobs and a lot of good high paying tech jobs because I was already in the industry. So I kind of started to do that, and then I started to kind of market myself online. And then I kind of transitioned into, wanting a book deal and wanting to be an author and wanting to showcase a lot of the clients that had success with me in my book, but also I wanted to make sure that I was telling a true story of how, my career life has gone for the last 10 years. I've had my own personal challenges. So that's where Career Rehab kind of came into play, because I felt like we all need career renovations. We all need to take our career to the next level in some way. So.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. I also think it's easy, and we kind of talked about this a little bit off mic. It's like, when you consider like the history of America and progress for Black and brown folks in the workplace, of course, Black and brown people had jobs in corporate like settings before the 60s. But when you talk about like that real influx, like that, we really haven't been largely represented, but for some less than like 50 some odd years. And we've only had all of our rights on paper since like 1965. So,
right.
So when you think about that, like, you and I were like the first generation of folks born with all of our rights, or the second generation, or, if you want to, like, it gets kind of hairy, right? Because you think about like really Gen X is like really the first generation of people who were coming into the professional space with all of their rights on paper. And even still today, right, there are still folks who are first generation college, like who are, 30 or in their late 20s, who are the first generation professionals, their first generation folks who graduate from college. So, when you think about like career rehab, the concept of career rehab, or just like needing to like really assess where you're at and what you're doing, those things, that's a novel concept for a lot of people who really just started getting into this space. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I think even, me being more of a millennial, I think the Gen Xers, they were the ones that really set the tone for, helping to establish, good. I would say the baby boomers established work ethic, right? Being loyal to jobs. That's my parents' generation. And then you have the Gen Xers who, they started to get educated. They started to get jobs. But the millennials, I think, are the game-changing generation because we wanted more than just the education and the job. We want passionate work. We want work that matters. We want people to know our worth. And I think the Gen Xers were a little bit more like, I'm going to just do what I'm told to do, and this is my job. I got it. I got my papers, I got my college degree, I got my education, but they didn't really rock the boat the way millennials and the newer generations are rocking the boat within the workplace.
No, I agree with that. I think it's interesting because when you look at like the research that continues to come out, and then you look at social media that continues to like really be a game changer in terms of democratizing information and making things just really accessible. When you talk about just the reality of inequity, right? When you talk about like from pay inequity to like opportunities to promote and to rise within the ranks, to hiring and like the exclusivity of some of these social circles, and how a lot of these, even these like technology pipelines and things like that are really closed off. I do believe that we're in a different generation now than we were, 15, 20 years ago, where we just didn't, all of people knew, but we know, you know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So when you talk about like career rehab and rebuilding your personal brand, like, and rethinking the way you work, like, can we talk about some of the core tenets of that? Like, what does that mean? And where were you in your career that made you say, I need a rehab? Like, what were some of the telltale signs that you needed to rehab?
So rebuilding your personal brand was kind of like for me at a point where I was leaving my good federal government job to go into private sector, and I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been in the federal government space. This is comfortable. And I went to go work for a company by the name of Deloitte. I didn't know anything about the company. So I had to rebuild my personal brand as far as my resume and my LinkedIn profile to be able to talk the talk of private sector, because the government talks totally different than private sector. So that was a time where I was really going through a transition of being unhappy in my government job. And I was like, I have to rebrand myself. If I'm going to be able to get into a very innovative company, I'm going to have to shift the way my brand has been looking far as my resume and as far as like my LinkedIn profile. So that was kind of like how I started to shift my mindset about how I thought about personal branding, because in government, you just don't think about personal branding like that, right? You think about, this is a good government job and I work for this and I'm gonna be here for 30 years. And my family and my aunties and my mom and everybody pretty much around me was like, get a good government job. And I'm like, this is really not even necessarily me, but I'm going to do it. So that's kind of the shift that happened in my personal career.
So let's continue to talk about this. I'm trying to understand, when we talk about rethinking what it is you need, or really what you want out of your career, like what would you say are some of the biggest kind of like traps or patterns in your coachees that you see that lets you know that they need to be coached or that they need some help?
Rethinking the way that you work is a career mindset shift, because so often we don't really focus in on talking about like getting paid now and getting the money, power, and respect. That's one of the things I coach people on, is it's not just about getting the job offer. It's about getting the money, power, and respect. And the power and respect comes into play when you become a subject matter expert. You have the power and the respect to be marketable. I think a lot of times in our community of people of color, we just get so validated by, oh, I'm gonna get this like nice paying job, that we still don't get the power and respect at work. So that's a mindset shift. Another mindset shift that I see, that I have even applied to myself and even applied to my coaching clients, is things like commutes worth the coins. It's okay to have a realistic commute. It's okay to ask for remote options from home. I think we so often are scared to ask for the work-life balance component of things in the workplace, and it has made us feel like we have kind of like have a slavery mentality towards the job instead of the job offering us the things that we need in order to have balance.
Yeah, and I think that also comes though from like a very real fear of loss, right? Like, like the system that we live in today, like you need money to survive. And if you have people who have maybe they interviewed at 50 jobs and this is finally the job that said yes, it's hard to then, if you see you making those requests as a risk to you keeping your job and then by relation keeping your lights on, it's tough, right? So like,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like, when you talk about like that self-assessment to understand how to ask, and then even facing those fears of asking, like, what does it look like for the people that you talk to like help them get over some of the fears that they have in advocating for themselves?
I think one thing that I wanted to kind of touch on when we talk about personal branding is that we have to continue to try to the best of our ability to align our personal brand of who we are as individuals with an employer brand that will make us feel like we feel good about this job situation, right? So that's important that when we are looking for jobs and interviewing for jobs, that if there are things on our list that we desire to have in addition to our annual salary, if it's work-life balance, if it's paid time off, if it's remote options from home, I think it's important to do research on the job just as much as they're doing research on you as you're coming to interview with them. I think we apply blindly and we go on job interviews blindly, not really looking at all of the other things that the job may or may not offer, from a culture perspective and from a benefits perspective.
And so then what does it look like to like assess a company to make sure that their personal brand does align with yours? Like how does one go about that type of research?
So that type of research can happen through websites like glassdoor.com. You can also, what I've done and what I've coached my clients to do is it's important to reach out to, what I usually do in the past is I've reached out to Black and brown folks that worked at the company, and I connected with them on LinkedIn, and I either, had a Zoom call with them or coffee chat, or we met up for lunch, or we just talked on the phone, and I just wanted to get their insight on how the company culture is for them, and how things have been working out for them, because sometimes Glassdoor, it has some good consistent information about the companies, but it's also good to talk to people that already work for the company.
Absolutely. And it's, I have folks hit me up on LinkedIn. Black and brown folks hit me up often. Like, so let me like not even exaggerate, like a lot, asking me about, have you worked, I know that you work here now. Like, would you recommend this being a place for me? What would be your recommendation or advice on how to ask and how to network, in terms of asking people who currently work there and like how to reach out? Like, what are some of the best practices for you?
Some of the best practice for me have been just developing a standard direct message template through LinkedIn and introducing yourself. Well, the first thing what you want to do is you want to edify their profile, make them feel good, make them feel comfortable for them coming into talking to you as a stranger. Right. So I try to make the person that I'm interviewing like, oh, hey, I see you work at this company and I see you have an awesome profile and you're an expert at this particular subject, and then I go in and I say, well, hey, just wanted to reach out to you just to connect with you to see how you been enjoying the company, and I'm interested in applying, or I have applied to X job, and I would love to chat with you to see how your experience has been. So I try to send out maybe close to 10 messages, because not everybody's going to respond back. Some people are scared to talk about company culture with a stranger, and some people just don't care. Some people just don't really use LinkedIn and they don't respond, and a lot of people would just be willing to share their experiences. And I try to get a diverse perspective, so I don't just say, let me just reach out to all the Black folks. I'm looking to reach out to a diverse set of people, so Asian, white, Black, female, male, you know what I mean? So I don't get just one perspective.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your work with Int Books and your work with Entrepreneur, right? Like, how did you create that relationship, and what does it look like to maintain that, and how does it help the work that you do today?
I pretty much got a book deal with Entrepreneur a year ago, probably maybe December 2018-ish, I should say, maybe a little bit over a year ago. But going into 2019, I got a book deal, and that relationship is really good. I had pretty much was trying to get a book deal for a while with Career Rehab. Career Rehab actually got turned down by a lot of other publishers. So Career Rehab was pitched to Entrepreneur. They loved the idea. They had a lot of, if anybody knows Entrepreneur.com's brand and their magazine, they have a lot of more entrepreneur business-based authors on their roster. So they were looking for opening up an arena for more career topic type authors. So I came in right on time for this particular time that they were looking for people, and they were looking for more minority women authors, because it's Entrepreneur has a lot of white male authors.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that relationship happened. I got on the phone with them. I pitched them the idea. They really liked it. We started writing in January 2019, and then the book came out a year after that, and this year it came out 2020. So it was a really good relationship. What I like about the platform, and I like about what they're allowing me to do, is they're allowing me to reuse a lot of the Career Rehab content in the book through articles. We're going to be doing webinars, and they're also allowing me to highlight other things that I want to talk about. Like, we featured Minda Harts. We're featuring Netta Jenkins with Dipper. So like, I'm using the platform to also highlight us.
Right.
In a way.
Right.
You get it, you
I
know.
do.
So I'm using mainstream media, things that they've never seen from an African American woman who's an author, but I'm saying, hey, let's shed light on all of these awesome people that I know in my network as well.
Yeah, I'm really honored, you know what I'm saying, that you came on our platform and talk about your book, to talk about, and then we had some basic tenets on just some of the things that we don't know and how we build. And I do talk to folks, right? Because like, I'm 30 years old, and most millennials at this point, they've been at their jobs for, you know, at least 5 or 6 years, right? Like, they've been working for 5 or 6 years, and a lot of us we'll get hired somewhere after we, you know, do undergrad, and then we do grad school. A lot of us then will be at our jobs for like 5, 6, and some of us who didn't do any type of post grad, you know, we've been working for 7, 8 years, you know, if not a little bit longer. And so I think it's important for us, as we look at a new decade, like, what does it look like to do an assessment and make a determination of, am I really where I need to be? And if not, what does it look like for me to create a path either at my current employer or to seek opportunities elsewhere? Before we let you go, this has been a dope conversation. Let's get some shout outs in here. Where can people learn about you? I want you to plug your stuff. And then any parting words you have for us.
You definitely can find the Career Rehab book on Amazon.com. You can find me at KanikaTolver.com. I'm pretty much on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, all at Kanika Tolver. Those are my handles. They're all pretty much the same, Kanika Tolver. And, you know, you can just find me on like a lot of other podcast shows. I've done a lot of interviews. So, yeah.
Man, I appreciate you. Kanika, this has been fire. Y'all, this has been Zach. You've been on the Living Corporate Podcast. You know, we everywhere. Okay. You check us out on Google, or whatever your search engine is, Firefox, you know, what's another on, Edge. I don't know.
Chrome, Safari.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever, you know, you out there, just Google it. Living Corporate, you know, we out here. But if you are into domains, living-corporate, please say the dash.com. And then we're also livingcorporate.co, livingcorporate.us, livingcorporate.net, livingcorporate. All the living corporates except for livingcorporate.com, because Australia owns livingcorporate.com. Okay. So when y'all go to livingcorporate.com and y'all see corporate apartment rentings, don't be like, what happened? No, I told y'all, it's living-corporate.com. Please say the dash. Or you can do livingcorporate. Any other thing besides .com, we're going to pop up. Okay. Now, make sure you follow us on Twitter at livingcorp_pod, or Instagram at livingcorporate. And, you know, our DMs are wide open. You have a question, you listen to a letter, you want to send something in for us to read on the show, we can do that. Until next time, This has been Zach. You've been listening to Kanika Tolver, CEO and author of Career Rehab, VIP entrepreneur, career coach, speaker, educator, technology consultant, professional. Till next time, y'all. Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.